having known how to form equations of a straight line through the various methods, we move to equations of parallel lines. And what are parallel lines? Parallel lines are lines that are equidistant from one another. It means, therefore, that these lines can never meet. Excuse. So if we have a constant distance between these two lines, L1 and L2, it means they will never meet because the distance between them is always constant. Therefore, if you are given two lines, what you need to know is that for parallel lines, M1 is equals to M2. What this implies is that their gradient is the same. Okay? Their gradient is the same. And in exams, what you need to understand is that you are given the first M to enable you determine the next M. So from the equation you are given in the first line, or from the equation that you formed, can you extract M and then use that M to form the equation of the other line? Let me give you an example for you to understand. Let me write it down. A question of find the equation of the line parallel to the line two x minus 5y is equals to 3 that goes through 5,3. Dear students or learners, whenever you are approached with this question, what you must have at the back of your mind is that we are dealing with the two lines. Number one is the line you are given. That line you are given, its significance is to only help you get the M1, which is the gradient for the first line. Then you conclude that since these lines are parallel, therefore M1 will be equals to M2. That is the essence of this first line you are given. So the only thing you need to do to it is to write it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. Writing it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c will enable you identify easily m. That is it. And remember to simplify so that y stands alone. Okay? And then I now want you to see how we go about this. So I've said the significance of the line you are given in the question or the first line you are given to form is to help you get M1. Then you use the M1 to get M2. And in parallel lines, M1 is equals to M2. So let us pick this point and write it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. Very important. So minus 5y, unahamisha kila mtu huko, unamleta huku, anakuwa huku. Very simple. And then now we simplify. We make y the subject of the formula by taking this others, the other side. I think I did it well. I took that, the other side, and it becomes a positive. So clearly you can see, by writing it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c, you clearly identify the gradient. And we call this M1. And then you say, for you to get M2, you just say, for parallel lines, M1 is equals to M2. Therefore, our M2 for the other line we are talking about will also be negative 2 over 5. Simple. And then now, because you have the M and a given point, label it as X and Y and replace. So you have the M2 now and the point 5,3. So simply label it X, Y. This is M. So we say Y is equals to MX plus C. Now, what is our Y? 3 is equals to Negative 2 over 5. What is x? 5 plus c. Yes, Castro. What is 3 plus 10 over? This is like, when you simplify that, it's like positive 2. So that is cheap. Yeah, we bring it there. So our c is 5. So what is the equation, class? The equation now is y is equals to m. M, negative 2 over 5, x plus 5. Plus what, class? Plus 5. Simple. So whenever you're dealing with parallel lines, hii laini ya kwanza, either you will be given 2 points or you will be given an equation. When you are given 2 points, just find the gradient. And gradient is given by y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But then when you are given an equation, always remember the first thing is to write it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c, so that then you are able to obtain m1. After obtaining m1, use that m1 and say that for the other line, remember we were dealing with the 2 lines here, m1 is equals to m2. So the same gradient you use here is what you use this other side. And having that second gradient and a point that you are given, the beauty of math, you always given, you just replace in the function, in the equation, and you get C and you get your answer. Correct. Are we together? Yes, so that is it for that. Let us move on. And then moving on to the next point is the equation for perpendicular lines. Equations for perpendicular lines. Now, what are perpendicular lines? These lines meet at 90 degrees. They meet at 90 degrees. So if you have a line L1 and L2, for you to say they are perpendicular, they must meet at 90 degrees. So for L1, we are going to have the first gradient, which is M1. And for the second, we are going to have M2. So what you're supposed to know is that for perpendicular lines, M2 is equals to the negative reciprocal of M1. That is the toughest part to understand. That M2 is equals to the negative reciprocal of M1. What do I say? Is that the product of M1 and M2 is equivalent to negative 1. Simply put, for you to get the gradient of a second line perpendicular to the other, you must get the reciprocal of that M1 and then you negate it. Very simple. So M2 is the negative reciprocal of M1. Simple. So reciprocal just means you have the denominator in the numerator, then you negate. So if my M1 is 5, it therefore means that my M2 will be negative 1 over 5. Because remember, all numbers are normally over 1. If my M1 is negative 2 over 3, my M2 will be 3 over 2. Yani wewe unapiga somersault, alafu unaweka minus. Simple. So if you've understood this point, that M2 for perpendicular lines, M2 is the negative reciprocal of M1, then you will never get confused. And I said, why are we given M1 or the first equation? The first equation is to help us get the gradient of the other line. So when you hear that a line is perpendicular to the other, just know that after getting your M1, for you to get M2, you get the negative reciprocal of the M1 that you found. For you to understand this, let me write an example here. So let us have a question there. Let me write it here. So find the equation of the perpendicular to the line x plus 2y is equals to 4 and passes through 2, 1. Simple. Such questions, if you get in exams, just laugh, because I already said the equation you are given in the question is to help you get M1. Then after getting M1, you get M1 by writing the equation you are given in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. After you've extracted M1, get the negative reciprocal of that M1 in order to get M2. Then replace with the point you are given to form the equation. So what is the solution for this? We want to write this in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. So you make y the subject of the formula. Unahamisha wote wanaenda huko. So we are going to have 2y is equals to negative x plus 4. Then making y the subject, y is equals to, this is negative a half x plus 2. I think that is correct when you simplify. And I said the significance of this is simply to help you get M1. E2, that is the purpose it serves. And in some exams, you will be given 2 points. As I illustrated earlier, you just get the gradient, form the equation, and what you're interested in is to get M1. And because you are told it is perpendicular, just know for perpendicular lines, M2 is equals to the negative reciprocal of M1. So once I have M1, for me to get M2, I'm going to get the negative reciprocal. So the negative, when you do the reciprocal, it's like you take the denominator, you bring to the numerator, and the numerator you take to the denominator. So when I do that, I get my M2 as 2. I hope we are clear. So you use this 2 and the point you are given, 2, 1. I said label them. This is x, this is y, and this is m. So you can form the equation by simply saying y is equals to mx plus c. Y is what? 1 is equals to m is 2. X is 2 plus c. We're going to have 1 minus 4 is equals to c. C is going to be negative 3. So with that, we know that the equation of the line is therefore y is equals to m, which is 2x minus 3. I mean, simple. So just mark this point. What is the significance of this part I'm given? It is to help me get M1 after writing it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. So once you write it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c, just extract this and get the negative reciprocal to get the M2. And you get a very nice answer there. So that is all about perpendicular lines. Always practice. So let us move to the second segment where we have midpoints of a line. How do you get the midpoint of a line? How do you get the midpoint of a line? This is very simple. Have a sketch, have a mental sketch of a line. For example, this is line RS. And I said we can call this x1, y1. And this we can call x2, comma, y2. Basically talking about origin and destination. We are coming from somewhere and we are headed somewhere. When I want to find the midpoint of this line, it is just a basic thing. The midpoint M. It is a basic concept. So midpoint, you get it by having x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. Unapata midpoint. Let me get a question here where we, yes. Find the midpoint of a line AB where A is 2, negative 2 and B is negative 4, 3. So I just said you just write this formula. Midpoint is equals to x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. Una replace. In maths, I said it is simple because you are given. I even don't know why you fear maths. You already given. Hii ni x1, y1. Hii ni x2, y2. Kazi yako ni kuweka tu. Wewe unakuja unaweka. x1 ni 2 plus x2 negative 4. Be very keen with the science. This is where examiners catch most of you. Because of you are hurrying, you don't pay attention to details. And that is where you miss the marks. So be keen. When you are dealing with the negative, always put a bracket. y1 is negative 2 plus y2 3 over 2. I don't know what this gives you. This plus times minus is equals to minus. So our M therefore will be, this will be negative 2 over 2, comma, this is 1 over 2. So our M therefore will be negative 1, comma, a half. That becomes our midpoint. So whenever you are tasked with a question to get the midpoint, the formula is this. x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. So that is what you are going to do in order to get the midpoint. Yeah, so we move swiftly to the next aspect of equation of a straight line, and that is the equation of perpendicular bisector. Equation of perpendicular bisector. Yeah, so the most important thing here is to understand what a perpendicular bisector means. A perpendicular bisector means a line that is cutting another line at 90 degrees. Please, that is very important to understand. This is what we call a perpendicular bisector. This line you see over here. It is a perpendicular bisector to this line because it cuts it at 90 degrees. So when you want to get the equation of this perpendicular bisector here, and what is important that you must know is that in exam this comes in many ways. They can tell you to get the equation of the perpendicular bisector or the equation of the mirror line. We also call it the mirror line. We also call it the line of symmetry. Line of symmetry. We also call it line of reflection. Line of reflection. Okay? Yes, so this means the same thing. whether they call it perpendicular bisector, whether they call it mirror line, whether they call it line of symmetry, whether they call it line of reflection. We also have equidistant point. We also have equidistant point. All these mean the same thing. All of them, they mean the same thing. They simply mean that you get the equation of this line that divides the other line at 90 degrees. And what you're supposed to do at this point, number one is always to get the equation of the given line. That is the first point. Get the equation of the given line. Equation of the given line, number one. Then number two is you get the gradient of that line. Gradient of the given line. Get the gradient of the given line. And then number three is to get M2, which is the reciprocal of M1. That one we had said because it is a perpendicular line. And then number four, you get the midpoint. So this question is normally 4 to 5 marks depending. It is very involving, so that is why. You get the midpoint of the given line. Then you will now be required to use M2 and the midpoint to get the equation, and the midpoint to get the equation of the perpendicular bisector. As you can see, it is very much involving. That is why it is accorded very many marks. So let me give you an example so that you understand what we mean. Let me write an example here. Can we get one example here? Yeah. Find, we have a question here. Find now they are saying P, this is the question, P 5, -4 and Q -1, 2 are points on a straight line. Are points on a straight line. Okay? So find the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of PQ. Giving you answer. In the form y is equals to mx plus c. Now follow through with me. I said for this you must have a sketch so that you know what you are doing. Have a sketch. We have point P, which is 5, -4, and we have Q, which is -1, 2. So once you have that, follow the procedure. Can we find the equation of the line? And before we find it, we must get the gradient of the line. So gradient of the line PQ will be, label them, this is x1, y1, this is x2, y2. So gradient is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y1 is, y2 is 2 minus. Again, you be keen. You see how they do it in exam. They trick you with the negative so that you get confused. So be very wise. x2 minus x1. So gradient here will be 6 over -6. I hope that is correct. So our M1 is -1. So we've got the gradient of the line, and we said this one is at 12 plus get M2. So M2 we said is the negative reciprocal. Negative reciprocal, so that is 1. it will be 1. Negative reciprocal. I hope we evaluated this correctly. This is 2 plus 4, 6. This is -1, -5. Yeah, so our M2 is 1. After getting that, can we get the midpoint of the line? We said to get midpoint, the formula is, I said the formula is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. That is it. So we replace x1 is 5 plus x2 -1 over 2, comma, y1 -4 plus y2, that is 2 over 2. Be keen as you are doing the replacement. So this is negative plus minus. So that will give us 4 over 2, comma, -4 plus 2, I think, is -2 over 2. So when you simplify, the midpoint is, this is 2, comma, -1. So why this is important is that we use this and this. We are going to use M2 and the midpoint to find the equation of the perpendicular bisector. So as usual, we say y is equals to mx plus c. Itanibidi ni rub hapa because you had got the concept of this, so that I do the last part here. So y here will be equals to mx plus c. Then you're going to replace, remember this is the m we are using. So this is x and this is y. Remember we are using the midpoint of the line and M2 to find the equation. So we're going to say -1 is equals to m, which is 1 into x is 2 plus c. So this is -1 minus 2 is equals to c. So our c is, what is our c? -3. Therefore, the equation of the line of the perpendicular bisector is y is equals to m, which is x minus 3. We were told to leave our answer in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. So this is normally very complex, but also the simplest to understand. If you follow the things that I've told you, for you to find the equation of a perpendicular bisector, number 1, you find the equation of the line. From the equation of the line, find the gradient of the line. After finding the gradient, get M2 by getting the negative reciprocal of M1. Then, get the midpoint of the line given, which the formula is here for getting the midpoint. Then you use M2 and the midpoint to get the equation of the perpendicular bisector. So that is normally a lot of marks, so you need to understand it. Thank you. So let us move swiftly to the next point in this topic, and that is how to get the point of intersection. Point of intersection between straight lines. And dear students, I want you to be very keen. Whenever you are told to get the point of intersection, this is where two lines meet. A good example is this. I have a line here and another here. Where they meet, this is what we call point of intersection. Point of intersection. And how to get it is that you will solve the two equations simultaneously. So simultaneous equation will help you here. So once you write them in the form of y is equals to mx plus c, the steps are very simple. Number 1 is to write the equation in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. After you do this, you can rearrange them and then you solve them simultaneously, either by using point of intersection method, you can use substitution method, you can use elimination method, you can use matrix method, either that you feel comfortable with. So whenever you are asked to get the point of intersection between two lines, just know that you are going to form two equations and solve them simultaneously. Let me write you an example so that you understand what I'm trying to talk about. So I'm told two lines L1, and you are given the points there, minus 3x minus 6 is equals to 0, and L2, you are given the coordinate as 3y plus x minus 20 is equals to 0, intersect at point A. Intersect at point A. Then you are told to find the coordinates of point A. Find the coordinates of point A. So basically point A is what we call point of intersection. That is what we call point of intersection. So we have two sets of equations. One, the first one for the first line, and the other one. So the procedure is simple, as I had said. Form the two simultaneous equations. So this is it. So for one, you're going to have 2y minus 3x minus 6 is equals to 0. For you to form an equation from this, you're going to have 2y minus 3x is equals to 6. This is equation 1. And then the other one is 3y plus x minus 20 is equals to 0. Form an equation, 3y plus x is equals to 20. This is equation 2. Then we solve them simultaneously, depending on what you know. Could be simultaneous equation, could be matrices, could be elimination, could be point of intersection. All of them will lead to the same answer. So this is our equation 1, and our equation 2 is 3y plus x is equals to 20. So if I decide to use elimination, this is our 1, and this is our equation 2. When I want to eliminate y, I'll cross multiply. I'll multiply the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 2. I simply want to do away with the y's. So I cross multiply with the coefficients. And then let me see what I have. So I'll be having 6y minus 9x is equals to 18. Then here I'll have 6y plus 2x, I hope so, is equals to 40. So I can eliminate now by subtraction here. So this will go. We have minus 9 minus plus 2, that is minus 11x is equals to, I don't know, 18 minus 40 can be negative 22, is it? Yes. So our x, therefore, will be, when you simplify this, x will be 2. For you to get y, you replace in any equation. I can take equation 1. I'll say, anywhere I see x, I'll put 2 so that I get the value of y. So I'll say 2y minus 3 into x, which is 2, is equals to 6. So 2y is equals to 6 plus 6. When they cross the equal sign, the sign changes. So 2y is equals to 12 and y is equals to 6. So having the coordinate of y and x, you can now write the coordinate of point A as x value 2, 6. And normally it is 5 marks or 4 marks depending. So that is the simplest way to get the coordinate of a point of intersection. I hope you got it. You practice so that you get the concept and it sinks. Thank you. Yeah, and for the last segment of this topic, we are going to talk about how to get the modulus or the distance or the length of a line. So whenever you're given 2 points to get their distance, for example, this is PR, we are talking about the length, the modulus, the displacement, and so on. The formula that you're going to use is this. For you to get the modulus of a point, or rather the length, you are going to get the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. What does this imply? We already have the x1, y1, so you just replace x2, y2. You simply replace and you're good to go. Let me give you an example so that you understand how it is applied. And the answers for lengths are left in units because we are dealing with Cartesian planes. So we leave our answers in units. So let me give you an example so that you understand how to apply it. Given the point A, -2, 3, B, and B, 1, 7. Find the length of line AB. Simple, just write the formula that when I want to get AB, the modulus, I'll be required to get x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And in my case, once I know the formula, I simply replace and I say this will be the square root of x2. I told you the most important is to label this thing so that when you are replacing, you know what you are doing. When you are replacing, you know what you are doing so that you don't confuse the concepts. So we are going to have x2. We know that is 1 minus -2. Be very keen with the signs. I hope you are seeing how these people are manipulating the signs so that you get confused and you get an x, which will be too bad at this point when you already have the concepts. -3. Yes. Yes. So this will give you the root of 3 squared plus, so that is root 25, because this is like 9 plus 16. So your modulus there will be 5 units. Very simple. This is exactly what you do. So the most important thing is to know the formula. The formula to apply when getting midpoint. That is it. That is it. The formula for getting midpoint. That is it. So another very important aspect that I actually forgot is that in exams, you can be told to leave your answers in different formats. And that is what I want to elaborate shortly. And then we call it quits for this topic. So, for example, you're given 4x minus 3y minus 9 is equals to 0. You can write this in different forms. Suppose this was your answer. The examiner can want you to write it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. Or he can ask you to write it in the form of, let me say, ax plus by is equals to c, or it can tell you to write it in the form of ax plus by plus c is equals to 0. These things are just a matter of manipulation. You just know that when we want to put it in the form of y is equals to mx plus c, what we simply do, we make c the subject of the formula. When we want to do this, we simply rearrange the equation to match this format, then we leave it at this. So our answer here will be, this one will take y the other side. We are going to have negative 3y is equals to negative 4x plus 9. So our y here will be negative 4 over 3x plus 3. But when they tell you to leave it in this format, you simply take c the other side. So the answer will be 4x minus 3y is equals to 9. And when they tell you to leave it in this format, it is the same thing. You just leave it. So leaving something in the other format simply means that you just rearrange and you ensure that these coefficients are positive, especially for x. Otherwise, thank you very much for following through. You can ask questions. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on WhatsApp. And please feel free to share with us your answer. We're going to leave our WhatsApp number on your phone so that whenever you have a question regarding this topic, you can always ask. And another thing that I want to sensitize is that please practice. Do not let this concept sleep in your brain idle. Can you do more practices so that you're able to master the concept? So that when it is brought in section A, you scoop your 3 to 4 marks. When it is brought in section B, you scoop your 10 marks, and we'll be very happy to hear about that. Otherwise, thank you very much and stay tuned. Bye-bye.